Hello and welcome to No Veto Video. I'm Carson.
And I'm Katherine, and this week we're talking about the film The Little Hours from 2017, available for streaming on Amazon Prime. It's directed and written by Jeff Baena, and starring Alison Brie, Dave Franco, Kate Micucci, Aubrey Plaza, John C. Reilly, Molly Shannon, Fred Armisen, Nick Offerman, Paul Reiser. It's got a huge cast. Great people.
I'm not quite sure how to describe this movie.
It's a naughty film.
It's kind of an absurdist portrayal of, well, maybe not, I don't know, of 17th century convent and the trouble that both the nuns and the surrounding people get into.
I had seen a trailer for this film, I think before it had been released. I think it had a really short run at theaters. And it looked so bizarre. It looked so... But, it looked funny to me, and it had the cast that I just told you about. And so many names there. I'm like, well, this sounds right up my alley. Irreverent fun with a great cast. So we missed it in the theater. It came and went, whoosh. And I saw that it had popped up on Amazon Prime. I thought, well, that's that. We shall watch it now. And it went in pretty cold. Didn't hear reviews about it. Didn't follow up on it. So was not 100% sure what I was gonna be getting either of us into. So that is for me one of the totally good uses of No Veto Video is hey, look, I'm just taking a chance on this. I have no idea.
I don't think even heard of this movie before you picked it. So I really didn't know what I was getting into. And the title really doesn't tell you a whole lot about it either. It's not like you could even make an educated guess based on that. But it turned out to be an enjoyable movie.
So as we start to think about unpacking this movie in the sort of plot spoiler-free way that we can, there were a lot of moments in this that felt to both of us, and I mentioned them while we were watching, that felt like references to other movies or, stylistic choices that put it in the same neighborhood as other movies. And certainly, different, maybe not direct homages, but things that sort of help put it in certain kind of context.
Yeah.
Did you have some that rose to the surface for you?
There were definitely feelings of that I was watching a Monty Python movie for parts of it. It felt very similar to some of the stuff that group has done.
Yeah, I think especially in the way that they blended sort of old-timey speak and very, very modern speak, and that for the most part the characters are speaking anachronistically, but every once in a while they'd use an old-fashioned slur or a thing like that.
Yeah, and a lot of the people felt out of place. It wasn't just the speaking, just their whole attitudes. I mean, I'm sure people had attitudes similar to today's attitudes back then, but they probably didn't express them in the same ways. They probably kept some of it bottled up. Maybe,
I don't know. At a certain point, Carson turns to me and says, well, why doesn't she just leave?
Well, I believe I said, why don't they all just leave?
I was like, oh, I don't know that we have time to stop this movie and talk about the politics of women's power or lack thereof in the 17th century Italy.
Yeah, but when they were speaking to each other, they certainly didn't seem disempowered. Or even when they were speaking to outsiders, they didn't seem to be disempowered.
Yeah. For me, there was definitely references to Italian cinema of the 70s. In the sort of madrigal score and the fonts used in the opening credits and in the curtain call credits at the end, this very elaborate script, and even in some of the ways that the exteriors were shot with this, the quality of the light really called to mind, sort of like the 70s versions of like Shakespeare that were done by Italian filmmakers,
Mm-hmm.
with the trees just so and the light just so. So those were definitely some of the references that were rising to the surface for me. I loved the score. I thought that was just it's all done by sort of madrigal singer types, and at some point groups like the King Singers,
Mm-hmm.
And brings just the right level of distance, reminding you constantly that there is a theatricality to what we're watching, and that it's not meant to be taken as a period piece.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason the dialogue hadn't let you in on that.
Having said that, though, the sets looked a lot less anachronistic than the speech. The sets looked dead on.
I believe they were, and the costuming too.
Yeah.
Has that very right up until you get to like Fred Armisen's Bishop.
Oh,
who
yeah.
looked a little school play.
Yeah.
To me. Like the Bishop's outfit looks pretty silly, but everything else, if you like textiles, there's actually not a lot of lovely textiles here. There's just sturdy, run-of-the-mill textiles.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's what they would have had. So enjoy your 2 dresses.
Yes. Although,
I feel like we can share a little bit of the plot, which is to say that there is this movement from the young servant of a nobleman, for reasons that are really obvious within the first moments of meeting him, can't stay with that nobleman anymore and seeks refuge
mm-hmm.
in this convent, where he is obliged to play the role of a deaf mute, which he is neither. And, hijinks ensue. And he's lovely. I think Dave Franco, in this role, is just a beautiful human being.
In that regard, the plot synopsis you gave, it almost sounds like one of Shakespeare's comedies.
Well, this is based on the Decameron, and Shakespeare took another tale, not these 2 tales, but a different tale, and made it into, I think, As You Like It.
Mm.
That's wrong, but you guys let me know what's right in the comments. But these were stories that were being traded in and among, it took longer to get to England, but these stories were that kind of body whose bed is who in at any given moment kind of thing. I think there's some extra spice thrown in, for this tale, but at one point one of the nuns is looking at an illuminated manuscript in which, like so many of the church's documents at the time, someone's been a little naughty. Did you notice that?
No.
No. Okay. I'm about to make an anatomical reference, so just hold on to your bonnets, ladies. It's a whole tree full of penises, like penis fruit.
Okay.
And she's so scandalous. But it seems to me that like this film is like that kind of illumination, which is like it is grounded in faith. Like there are moments where people, especially like the priest who's played by John C. Reilly, is expressing genuine faith, and yet they're also having these very human, very sexually explicit moments as well. The faith of the sister who's there who doesn't want to be is no less genuine just because she's really just there because her family doesn't have the money to get her out of there. And even though Paul Reiser only has that one scene, it's so good. Yeah.
Although, just to clarify what you said, I think a number of them did not want to be there. I think only one really made it explicitly stated over and over.
That she didn't want to be there. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But I think, so Dave Franco's character, Masetto, keeps getting sort of roped into sexual encounters that he seems reluctant to participate in at first.
Literally roped once.
Yeah, well, and then he kind of comes around on most of them, but he has this like look of anguish for large sections of the film that actually caused me to not like to stop enjoying the movie as much. Like, oh, I thought we were just having a sex comedy, but now it's like really exploitative sex, and it's really like it's very, very not good. And my dis-ease with the the plot was like, boy, I wish he had played it sillier. If he had played it a little less anguished, I would have been less squicked out by it. But maybe squicked out is what the filmmakers were after. And if that's the case, then well done. In fact, there are a couple of moments of, cringe comedy too, where it's just like, oh,
yeah,
I have to look away. I'm very weak to cringe comedy.
There wasn't a whole lot of it, though.
No, just a few moments, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah. There was a lot of passive aggressiveness on the parts of the characters, too. The floor sweeping scene, for instance.
I think it was just a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
But it reminds me, I often have said, like, that if I lived in that time, that perhaps I myself might have been, called to that kind of life. Which at the one hand offers this, for women at that time, relative, intellectual freedom, certainly, a kind of protection.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the company of women can be fraught. And this lays that out really, really clearly. So yeah, the company of women can be fraught. That's my takeaway.
Okay.
Anything else about the film you want to talk about?
And we've talked about the characters. We've talked about the dialogue. We've talked about the setting. The lighting we haven't talked about. It seemed
It's very naturalistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact,
and
at one
kind
point,
of subdued without being unnecessarily subdued.
well, at one point the film actually becomes very dark. It's a film set. The scene is set outside at night.
Yeah.
And it is hard to see those characters.
That's true.
It was a very naturalistic lighting scheme. And very, very beautiful, very lovely. This film was very lovely while being horrible. It's like that illumination of a tree full of penises. It's a lovely thing that can sometimes be hard to look at. I just want to pause for a moment and talk about the relationship between Molly Shannon, who plays the Mother Superior, and John C. Reilly's Father Tommaso. Mm-hmm. Which, it's not a giveaway to say that they have a very special kind of relationship. But just the warmth that really they had with one another, an easy comfort. I don't know how long they were working together or how long like the shooting went on. Maybe they knew each other ahead of time. But there was something just really human and gentle and good and sweet in the way that they even just looked at one another. And it was just a really nice, like, more than anything else that was happening with the younger cast members, that really made me go, oh, oh, that's so sweet,
Mm. And there was a donkey who also acted appropriately like a donkey from the time period.
Boy, the donkey more than anything really was hitting those 70s Italian cinema notes for me. And like, what is a movie without a hairy donkey?
So, I see it. You take my joke and you turn it into a real point. Good on you.
It was a good donkey.
It
good
was.
Donkey. Doing extra good work.
Yeah. And a lot of the plot actually, at least early on, sort of...
revolves around said donkey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a little bit at the end. So he is a vital character.
Yeah.
He's not just there for show.
Oh, a vital plot device.
Yes. In fact, I think he might be the only non-human besides the tortoise.
Any kind of last thoughts?
I'm not quite sure why the title is what it is. Little, synonym for small or wee, so a lot of it took place at night, wee hours. That kind of makes sense, but I don't know if that's what they were going for.
I mean, that's a good thing. It certainly takes place at night, a lot of it, but the little hours is also the sequence of prayers throughout the day that nuns and monks, or it's one way of structuring the prayers throughout the day. And in fact, they are attending to these prayers. They are going to these prayers. They're going to mass. They're going to confession. When we do see confession, it's clear that for all of the silliness that's happening in the whole environment, and even when all of it has hit the fan, that's not treated lightly. It's kind of interesting because Catholic groups came down on this movie like a ton of bricks, as is probably no surprise to anyone who's seen it. But the faith itself is treated quite gently in this movie. No one's poking at God or at the function of the clergy. Some parts of the practices of the clergy are certainly poked at, but. I don't know. I guess this is why I don't work for the Vatican. Among other reasons. I don't see anything all that bad here. Except for the exploitative sex. That's so bad. That is a sin. That is a sin. You guys, consent is very important, and maybe that's my final thought. Consent is very important.
So if we missed something, or if you find flaws with the movie that we just didn't notice because we were laughing too hard, please leave them in the comments below or over on novitovideo.com.
All right. Which brings us to the time on No Veto Video when we share with you another film that maybe watches alongside of this or in place of this. And you do with it what you will. You don't have to take our word for it. So, Carson, what's your override this week?
Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail. It touches on a number of the same types of gags that this does. It's probably less reverent in a way.
It's less reverent.
But some of the same settings, a dungeon and a tower or whatever, and trying to break people out, doing unorthodox methods for that. Just the anachronisms in it sort of match the anachronisms in this movie. The style of humor is similar.
My pick actually kind of riffs on one of my last points, which is, that this film was actually pretty respectful of the faith, even while messing around with some of the tenets of it. So my override this week is Dogma, the Kevin Smith film. And, check it out. It comes with a pretty strong language warning.
As do most of his movies.
I just know that going in.
Yeah.
All right. So what's up next?
Next time we're watching The Vampire's Assistant from 2009 that you can currently find on Netflix. it seems to come and go from there. So as of right now, it's on there.
Okay, so check that out. We will be back with you next week. Thank you so much for watching, and do hit that subscribe so you get the notification when the new episodes come out. And we will see you again next time. Bye.
Goodbye.